What's up guys, Ace the Cheapster here, back with another video, and I thought I would give you guys an update on what is going on with our fixer-upper house. So basically right now we're just working through the final touches of finishing up the 5th floor. Should be on the market soon at our listing of around 13.2 million or somewhere in there. You know, I think that's where we're probably going to start. No, I'm totally just kidding. We have not really done much with the house yet because we've kind of run into some issues, and there's been some stuff going on that's not really in our control that we're kind of waiting on, that I think we just aren't going to be able to wait on. It's been a little bit of a crazy time, to say the least, to have to buy a house and try to do a fixer-upper right now, with inflation being the way it is and with supply chains being the way they are. But there are some really good sides to this, but there's also some really bad sides to what's going on. So first off, just getting started off with what is our first roadblock we ran into, and that is permits. Now, of course, I knew we were going to have to draw permits for certain things that we were going to do, but there was also stuff that I wasn't planning to do myself, like when we're going to do plumbing, because I think we need to replace all the plumbing. When we do electrical, because I think we need to replace all the electrical. So there's a lot of like really big stuff that I was like, I know we're not going to be doing this stuff ourselves anyway, so the contractors we hire are already going to be the ones drawing up permits for that stuff. And I figured there's probably some things that I would have to draw up permits myself to do it myself, but I found out that there's a lot of stuff in Greenville that you actually have to have permits for. Almost all the work needs to be permitted. The only things that aren't permitted are things that are like remodeling stuff. So luckily, like doing floors and stuff, you don't need a permit for that. Doing like kitchen repairs or cabinets or anything like that, you don't need permits. But one of the big things I didn't know is that you need permits when you're going to do demo work, and I was not expecting that at all, because we were about to get started demoing the back house when we found out we actually have to get a permit before we can do that. So that's kind of delayed things because we have to work through that process, and the permit process right now is very slow. I've heard people say that it takes months right now just to get answers on your permit. So that's been an issue, as well as we've been finding more issues with the house. Like for one thing, we have vinyl siding on this house, and I found out, I'm pretty sure the house is actually wood on the outside that they've put vinyl siding over. So it used to be like a wood exterior, and with the condition of a lot of the wood in the house, I'm thinking it's probably not in good shape. And that's not the end of the world, because it would look a lot nicer to do a refacing of the outside of the house and not have the vinyl siding, but of course that's dollar bills, y'all. And the last part on the permitting process that has really been a roadblock for us, that I think it's probably going to be okay, but it definitely changes our plans, is I found out here in Greenville, this is not common as far as I know. If we do DIY work ourselves where we have to draw up permits, we actually cannot sell or rent this house for 2 years, I think, once all that process is done. And that's a pretty big issue to us, because I mean that really sticks us here, so we don't have the flexibility to say we're going to move somewhere else if we have the decision, or if the market's really hot, we want to sell our house at that time, we have to wait that 2 years. So if you're in the same situation trying to fix up your house, that's definitely something to look into, because I've never heard of that being a thing, and that is a thing here. So I don't know if there's ways that we might be able to get out of that. Probably not. I think it's pretty set in stone. It's just something we'll have to deal with. But anyway, that's the permit stuff. So let's talk about the back house, because that's actually the first thing we were going to get started on. We actually did demo the kitchen of that back house and got that all cleaned out, ready to go for doing a new kitchen. But before we did that, we were going to open all the walls up, because we actually need to replace all the walls back there, because it's been pretty infested and the wood's not in great shape. And we opened up one wall, and yeah, to say it's been infested, it's been infestations. Multiple infestations. It's pretty bad. I'll show you guys a video here of what we found inside the walls, where you can see there's obviously been very serious mouse infestations back there. There's also been very serious cockroach infestations that we were dealing with, and then there's also very serious infestations of termites in certain areas where the wood is actually really bad. I shouldn't say really serious on the termites, but I mean termites, when they come into a house, it's always pretty serious. So the bones of that back house are a lot worse than we were expecting, and it's getting to the point where we're not sure if it's worth fixing it up or if we should demo it and start over. And running into this again is like the situation with the house, where it's like, you know, we have to start over. I mean, at least we can make it better. One of the things that would be really nice with that is the fact that that house is so low, and we actually have commercial buildings behind us that you can see the top of. That's really ugly, because it's like the AC and all that kind of stuff. So if we did have to rebuild it, we could raise it somewhat, and then that would kind of block that, so it would look a lot nicer back there. But of course, that gets into whole other issues of permits and zoning and what we're even allowed to do, because some of this stuff might be grandfathered in. We don't really know at this point. But one of the big things that we've decided that I think we want to do back back there. Of course, we need to get estimates and see how crazy expensive this would get, but we want to actually make that house back there a pool house. And this isn't going to be some crazy pool house. It's going to be, we'll have a small pool back there that's just, you know, very affordable small pool, but then make that like a pool house guest house, because I think that'll bring a lot of value to the house. We also have the garage next to that small house that I want to connect those together and then actually add a little bit more space to that back house, which will give us the option to do things like move the bathroom over farther to a more usable place, add in a washer and dryer, laundry room. And these are things that I hope are not going to cost as much as maybe it will, but I think they'll really add a lot of value to that back house. But of course, that's where you're dealing with the money. It gets very expensive trying to deal with moving things, adding more, especially for tearing the whole thing down and restarting. And especially right now with prices being so high and supply chains are really crazy and not fixed yet. And we were kind of waiting on that to see if prices would get better. They really haven't though. And since inflation has really been crazy lately, it's kind of only getting worse. So that's kind of the situation with the back house, which is what we're starting on first. So it's kind of put us in like a standstill spot where we need to figure that out before we know what to really do with it. But all that waiting hasn't been so bad, because it's actually giving us time to make sure we design everything to what we want, so that we know before we get started on stuff what the end plan is, and so we can kind of estimate prices so we don't get ourselves into a big situation where we don't have the money to finish our project. So in the meantime, waiting on that, we've actually been using my wife's old 2014 CAD software to try to design our houses. I say our houses, that sounds so weird, but it's our main house and a small back house. This is an old software she had back before she even met me, and it still works pretty well. So we've been using that because it's free, because she already had it. And that software is Chief Architect. If you're looking for any software, I think it's pretty good today. I think the newer softwares that they have are even better than what we're using, obviously, since ours is from 2014, but it works pretty well, and I would recommend it if you're looking for something like that. But in that software, we've been able to take measurements of the back house and put it into the software so we can start to kind of work with it. And that's just been so awesome to be able to design in there and to try to envision what the whole plans are going to be and what they'll actually look like in the end. So my next update will probably be me showing you exactly what our designs are for that back house in the CAD software. And I'm pretty excited for that, because I think once we get it designed, it'll be so cool to be able to see the finished product on the computer, to know what we can have back there, and then to start to estimate out the prices to see, is this actually possible? But right now, this whole project is still pretty exciting, but it has become very overwhelming, which I'm not surprised about. Of course, we knew that this was going to be a big project, and we don't really have a time limit on it, so that's nice that we're not rushed to try to finish stuff. But of course, with a big project, you usually have more issues that you didn't expect, and that's kind of what's happening. And the crazy thing, though, is that we knew pretty much everything was an issue, but still we're finding more issues somehow. I don't know how that happens. So right now we're just trying to get a new plan together, especially with today's prices that have changed a lot since we bought the house. But the good news with prices rising is that the housing prices have actually risen. So the house is worth a lot more than it was at the beginning and what we were expecting it to be worth at this point. So that's going to help us a lot, because we can possibly do things like cash out refinances to get money out to then put into the house. So it gives us a lot more options, and it pushes up that price point that we'll be able to sell when we get done. So sitting on the house has actually been not a stressful process, because we're just watching our equity keep going up and go up. Of course, that may not always be the case. I do kind of expect that the market might have a correction, but we're also seeing so much inflation that I'm like, I don't know how much it's really going to come down. And since we're not looking to sell probably the next 2, possibly 3 years too, we're not really that concerned about what's happening right now with the housing prices. Also, not to mention, Greenville, South Carolina is growing so fast, so I'm not too concerned even with exactly what the housing prices are doing as a national average, because I just see that this city is growing so much, and we have a house that's pretty close to downtown. So I mean, this is only going to get more and more valuable as people move in here. But our plan right now through the winter is that we're going to plan out everything in the CAD software, try to estimate prices based on some of these newer prices, and get just an idea of what our true plan is in design and in cost, and the time it will take to do all this stuff too. We're just going to try to plan that out, but of course, you know, that always works out. You always stick to your time plans. And then we'll probably get started on the actual work that I'll be able to show you guys in spring, where it'll be more interesting videos than me just sitting here talking about it, or me actually doing work. But thank you guys so much for watching and for keeping up with the process of this. I know in the end, I think it's all going to come together really cool, but it's going to be a long process. This is a multi-year video series that I'm going to be running, because this is just going to take us a long time to get all this stuff done. But in the end, what I hope to show is that flipping houses can really be a great way to build wealth, And I can already tell you how I've seen just sitting on this house with housing prices going up, it's already seeming like we've made a very good decision. Do you think we made a good decision? Tyson wants to be in the video. There you go, buddy. There you go. You're in the video. You can't see him now because he sits back there and it's behind me. He doesn't want to sit on the couch. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys liked the video, remember to do the cheapest thing you can today. Tap the like button. Also subscribe to the channel for more updates on what's going on with the house, personal finance, and saving money. I'm trying to sign this off, and now Tyson is running around. There's a fire truck outside. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys for watching though, and remember, stay cheap.
Hey, you better be saving that money. Don't you be spending it now. You're still here watching this? You might as well just subscribe. Why would you not at this point?